Coming up on this episode of In Your Mind.
Most people in the prime addiction time, when they're the lowest, where they can actually get spirits that attach to them, entities that attach to them, beings that are staying here because they want to keep driving people to use, and it's like that kind of intertwines with their own addiction stuff, and it's like they drop down and they start living at this lower dimension themselves.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of In Your Mind with your host, me, Paul Andres, and I cannot wait for you guys to meet one of my, I guess I'm going to say it, like my original friends from moving down here in California, and really the person that I just like trust, honestly, like with my life, because she knows a lot of things that most people don't. But please help me welcome Sarah Renee. Sarah, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
So good. It's Sarah is a psychic medium, and so like I go to her for everything and anything. Probably too much, but it's so good to be here in like this format, right? Like you don't have,
Yeah, so happy to be here.
don't have to worry about any of my problems.
So you don't have you don't have anything that bad.
Well, I am so thankful that you decided to come and be part of this. And I say, like, let's just get right in. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I start every question, or sorry, I start every interview with the same question. And I think it's always best to just start from the beginning. So if you can, tell us a little bit about Sarah as a little girl.
That's a good one. Sarah, as a little girl, I grew up in Arizona, and in Tempe. And then, so when I was little, I couldn't sleep alone. Like I would see things in the dark. Like I would freak out, and I was really, I was kind of afraid at night a lot of the things in our house when I was really little. Luckily, when I was, like 10, no, 8 sometime, we moved, and that house wasn't haunted. I didn't even realize, I was little, so I had no idea that the place would probably be viewed as haunted, now I would say. But when we moved, and then I was fine and I could sleep through the night and I was good. But yeah, most of my like really young childhood, I was afraid of these dark things that I would see. And then, during the day, I was like, I thought it was normal to talk to animals, and I'd like go outside and pick leaves off plants and hang out with all of our dogs. And
Wow.
I just was like, this is my normal, this is how life should be right here. And we'd go to Sedona all the time. And luckily I had, parents who were kind of into, I mean, they weren't like hippy dippy at all, but into more of the spiritual places and outdoorsy things and things like that. So
Is it, and I mean, this is sort of like a personal question, but of course I'm going to do that.
like, of course.
Is it true, like, for children, like, are they just more, like, open, I guess, to, like, sort of this realm, right? Like, they are open to sort of experience that more than adults?
Yes. So it's essentially, if you think of children, like their imaginations are really wild, like they're so open, like so before a person is told that something's not real, like that the monster, or before they go to school and they're like, teachers are like, oh no, there's no such thing as monsters, there's no such thing as that, or
Yeah.
whatever, like, so essentially before they're taught that, they can see the other side. And
Right.
especially babies, like I have a lot of clients that come to me and like their parents or grandparents will come through, or even previous children, and they're able to visit, little babies and kind of play with them in their crib. And it's,
Oh my
it's really
God.
cool. And so that's like a good part.
I remember when I was younger, my cousin and like aunt and grandma and grandpa lived right next door to us. And there was a time my cousin had like her first baby. And so she had to be like one, maybe two, like enough to be able to like crawl, but not like really do things.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, she might have even been walking actually, but she was like a baby, walked, and she would not go past this doorway. And it was a small home, like a two-bedroom home. And there was a little doorway that didn't have a door, and that's how you went into the kitchen. And that was towards the back of the house. And in the kitchen was also the laundry room, and then this little tiny, the second bedroom, a little tiny bedroom. And she would not go past that doorway. And at night, she would usually go up to that door, like, or opening, and just
Mhm.
like she'd cry all the time standing there, but never go into it. And it was always scary. It scared, obviously, I'm like a kid, so anything scares me. It's really scare me because, they'd be like watching a crime show or like a horror movie or something, right? And then she's just standing at the doorway crying. Um, but I had then was washing dishes in that kitchen, and the laundry room is behind you when you're washing dishes. And I swore, and no one was like, "You're crazy, go away." But I swore I had seen someone, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but it sounded like there was someone behind me. And when I looked, it looked like there was like a person's form, maybe, like it was a shadow. Um, but I have no idea why. I could see that it had a noose, like it was,
Mhm.
but it had a noose, and
Mhm.
it scared me so much. I just remember like dropping the stuff in the sink with the water, like splashed everywhere, and running out. And so I kept saying like, I know she sees it. I know she sees it. Um, and I don't remember how long, but years later, we found out that in that back room is the opening to like sort of their cellar, I guess, like because it's an old home, and so you have
Mhm.
the like flooring up, and there's an opening to a cellar, and you go down. It's all just cement, empty, with like one like creepy like light bulb hanging. I mean, it looks like a horror movie. They got that house so cheap because a person killed himself in that basement. He hung himself in that basement. But anyways, I don't even know where I was going with that. I was just
So,
it's so crazy. Why do kids know this? Like it's because they did. It was like a sheet. The baby knew it more than I did.
yeah. Yeah, well, because they don't have the filter, so they can see. And kind of like if you think of it like different dimensions is how it's an easier way to describe it for people. Um, shoot, can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Oh, sorry, it froze a little bit on my end. um, so like ghosts, right, or like lower level spirits, is how I describe them, like kind of low frequency. They haven't crossed over yet, but they're not living either.
Yeah.
Um, they like that's one dimension, or one frequency, and then we have our human world, where we see one another and all of that, and then there's a higher frequency with like the angels and your loved ones who have crossed over, and you know kind of ascended masters and guides, and all of that. And so like kids or babies can essentially see all three. They don't realize, like, to them, or like even to me, it doesn't look like it's three different dimensions. It's like all the same.
Got it. That makes so. I mean, that is an easier way to explain it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, like explaining it like that, like people can get, you can kind of grasp.
So in your case, like you've seen it since you were little. And
Hmm.
I guess when was the time that you were able to? maybe express it and someone was like, I believe you? Because I mean, that had to have been a moment, right?
I didn't really realize though, like I just thought I was crazy, to be honest. Like, and I would, even through high school, like I would see and know things that I shouldn't know and feel, but like I just thought I was weird. And so I really tried to just repress it. And so there was a time where, you know, at that time it was like probably little, I would get little, like let's say I was sitting with you, I might like see some things or feel some things, but I wouldn't have been clear enough to be able to actually like relay anything to you and like put it together. So because I wasn't in like a solid place in myself
Mm.
to be that clear of a channel, right? So when I was 18, I was told that I was a medium by another medium, and kind of like she like explained like this is why you feel these things, you can work at it and develop it and use it to help people. And that was like my first like connecting the dots of like, oh, like not everybody has these experiences. And
Ah,
I'm not insane, like that, like and really like understand. um and then trying to think back to your question. So my first real, I guess, like solid moment of bringing somebody through, I was doing energy healing work on a client, and I was standing, I'll never forget, I was standing at her head, and I was doing like sending this healing light, and I was, in my zone. And this man, this male energy, like it felt at that time like he was stepping, like almost like I was like a shadow and he was stepping into me.
mm.
It, Now I realize like he was stepping into my energy field. At the time I was like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? Like, it felt like he was overlapping me almost, but he wasn't in my body. And he was like, so not like, he just like felt really friendly. And, but he was this huge guy. And like, I was like, I don't do this. I don't bring people through. I do healing work. This is not why she's here. Like, I was like arguing with him in my head. I was like, I'm not, like, I don't want to do this. And he was like, she needs to hear this. Like, she needs to know that I'm here. Like, and so after like a few minutes, I was just like, fine, he's not going to leave. And like, my heart was pounding. Like, the energy was just so intense. And so I told her, I was like, this is going to sound really weird, but like, I'm feeling this man here. And I described him and, his energy and all of that. And she's like, oh my God, it was like her ex's dad. And she had like felt so guilty for ending that relationship or something, like there was, and she always wondered like, is he mad at me over there? And so he was able to like validate some things for her and address that so that she could heal and release all that guilt and be happy in her current relationship and all of that. So
Wow.
yeah.
What about when you were, because it's like, to me, I think of this, and you can tell me I might be wrong. You got, like anyone who has like this, like, and I don't know, everyone calls it something different, whether it's a gift or something. Other people are like, no, it's just I'm attuned to something because we all have this. Um, what was that coming out experience? Because that's how I look at it. Is like you had to come out essentially.
That's how I felt. That's like honestly how it felt. Like it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life.
Yes.
That like, and it felt like, I mean, I don't know how like coming out and other feel, but I would think that it would feel somewhat similar. I'm like, I mean, I don't really know how to compare it, but I feel like it's somewhere, it kind of aligns, whatever. And it was so funny. It was I remember sharing it on Facebook, and I had a bunch of friends on there, like from high school and things like that, and and family members. And it was kind of after, I mean, my mom, my like family, I'm really close with, so I had kind of, they knew kind of every little step,
Okay.
and they always knew. I mean, I had weird stuff as a kid, like too. So I mean, it wasn't a shock to anybody related to me.
Okay.
Um, and and what was even more funny is the side, my dad's side of the family, who's a little more conservative.
Mm.
Their response was actually, "Oh, this runs in our family."
Oh, wow.
Like, and then I know it's in my mom's family, so I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting." So, but yeah, when I put it out there on Facebook, no one was really surprised, which was the really, I built it up to be this huge moment, and I was just like, oh my God, they're gonna want to like burn me at the stake. Like that's like, I was so terrified, but I knew I had to embrace that part of me. Like it was just time.
It's
And just,
coming out. You literally just described coming out.
is that,
I mean,
it was just like, I have to be myself. I can't hide.
with this gift, I guess like one thing I've always been curious, and I've never even asked you, is it's tough to be a kid. It's tough to be in high school. It's tough to be a young adult. That whole journey of like, I don't even know. For some people, it's forever, right? It's their whole life. Some people, it's just that adolescence, young adulthood, to whatever. Do you feel like? I mean, obviously, I know you went through that just like the rest of us, but I mean, I can't imagine that. To me, it feels like it'd be intensified because you have to like go through it plus
Mm-hmm.
other things, going through things too.
Probably. I mean, I feel like there's also this, I don't know what it's like to be a normal,
True,
to
totally.
not have experienced that. So like I have no real comparison. I
Yeah.
will say like I struggled through high school. I dealt with addiction. I honestly considered myself sober when I was just stoned. Like I was pretty intoxicated at all times. And I feel like that's really, it was my way of surviving.
Mm.
And even being in active addiction, and I think too, it kind of came out as this, savior complex, or this like I was that girl that, would love the guys that were on the bad path and just needed somebody to love them and help them, like um and and I could feel their pain. What's interesting is there were things that I would experience, like um one of my boyfriends, I remember in high school, got jumped. It was like late, it was in the middle of the night. I woke up in the middle of the night in my house alone, feeling like I was getting kicked in the stomach. I was just severely, like I could feel being hit. I tried to crawl to the bathroom because I felt nauseous. Like I couldn't move. I was crying on the floor. And I found out the next day he had gotten beat up and was getting kicked in the stomach.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like random things like that would happen. But like, I didn't know how to really explain it. I was just like, oh my God, that's weird.
Tell everyone because you brought up a part of your life that I don't want to say I love. I just love the courage that you had to share it and that you have a book.
Oh, yes.
Yes. What is that?
Um, yes. So when you're meaning like my addiction life. Yeah. So I'm actually coming up on 8 years sober. Um,
Questions?
sober. So
It's amazing.
yeah, pretty amazing. It's like crazy how like I feel like when I first got sober, I would have been like 8 years is like a lifetime, and now it's like wow, it's gone by so fast. Which I think is all areas of life, but but yeah, I dealt with, drug addiction, and alcohol addiction in high school. I had a little period of time where I quit drinking, but didn't really get support with it at all.
Mm.
And then I kind of had to go through like, I don't even really refer to it as a relapse. I had to go through testing it out to see how I did with alcohol later in life.
Mm.
It just, and I don't do well with it. Like I relate to it more as like an allergy, which is how it's described in the AA book originally. I don't know if it's called a disease now, and so a lot of people don't realize that, but how it was originally described as an allergy, where you have a little bit of something and then your body craves more, and that's really mostly how I relate. But I'm so grateful, to be honest, because that required me to be on the spiritual path and do so much work to have such clear energy. Like I feel like it's very like my gift and dealing with addiction are very like interconnected.
Yeah,
And I would honestly say, like, I think probably 80% of people who deal with addiction are highly sensitive to some degree.
I agree. Like we just had Chris Stewart, who's like, it's so weird when you like meet someone total stranger. Yeah.
Rock and roll Hollywood Chris.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Oh my God, I love him.
I love him. Like I met him, and it's like so not the person that I would normally be like, oh, that's gonna be my really good friend. You know what I mean? Like it's like if anything, I'd honestly more be intimidated to even talk to him. Um, but I the minute we got on the phone, I was just like, I love this guy. Like I love him so much, and how honest he is, and he told us so much of his story. And yeah, I don't know. I just like I there's something about someone who's going through that, and we talked exactly about what you just said, that people that are going through that are always, and just like more times than not, highly sensitive people.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. Like I just think that there's more to the story with those people,
Mm-hmm.
or we'll even ever know.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard so many stories in meetings throughout the years of people who have these. A lot of them will reference them as God shops in the program, but these moments where it's like some higher power, some force, whether you call it angels or God or the universe, whatever you refer to it as, comes to them and heals them or saves their life, or they have this moment and it's just like, I'm gonna stay sober, I'm gonna change my life, like, and they just have that divine courage. And
Mm.
it's almost like spirit like compares it to me as like reconnecting, like replugging the plug into the outlet, and it's like, oh, like this is who I am.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I love that you know him. That's so crazy.
I love that him.
I know.
He's the greatest speaker. He's so good.
So like after our interview, which lasted too long, really. I mean, honestly, like that interview that I did with him was like 2 hours. Like we had to like really cut it down. But afterwards, that was months ago too. Like I want to say 2 months ago, probably, that since I had that interview with him, and not even 2 weeks ago, I was going through my junk mail and saw an email from him that was right after that interview that he wrote me. So at 2 months, I felt so bad. But he in the email he wrote like, "Oh, I didn't tell you, or I meant to tell you. Like I didn't tell you. It was sort of embarrassing, but you didn't just find me by accident. Like I went to dinner with someone who knows you, and I forced them to introduce, like all this stuff." And he just said all this like nice, kind things. And yeah, I don't know. Like there's something about people that you can just tell like are just like innately good. I don't know if that's like the way to describe it, but like there's, even if people do not great things, sometimes you just know though inside they are really, really good. And so it's easier to then, I think, comprehend like what happened to make them do that action. because I know that that's not that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and in his story, obviously, I know what happened. We all know now. Like, but like, yeah, I love meeting a person that's really that good because it's so rare. I feel like because I just felt like you're good, like inside and out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, so if we go back to like the dimension explanation
yeah,
of seeing energies, how I and like everybody kind of talks about vibration these days. It's kind of a more known mainstream topic. Keep your vibration high, like, that kind of thing. But so alcohol and drugs lower your vibration, like especially when you're doing that daily, right? Like even bad food can lower your vibration. I mean, like any addictive, right? You don't have to be an addict to experience addictive tendencies.
sure.
But so you know, I I I have a theory, it's my own theory, that most people in the prime addiction time when they're the lowest, where they can actually get spirits that attach to them, entities that attach to them, beings that are staying here because they want to keep driving people to use, and it's like that kind of intertwines with their own addiction stuff, and it's like they drop down and they start living at this lower dimension themselves. And that's when you'll see people where it's like they look like the Walking Dead,
Yeah,
like, and people will describe them as like soulless, or and and I feel like that's what happens is they're living at that lower dimension. And I mean, you could say somebody with depression can go there too. Like I've dealt with depression and certainly have been at that low of a state, and so that's where it's not just like, oh, raise your vibe and be happy,
mm,
but it's like living at these different frequencies, like that's where you feel it. It's not really a bad mood. You can be at a high frequency and be upset about something. It's not, people think that it's that, but really it's like just your state of being. And so what I see, especially seeing people like using and then getting help and then a long time after straightening their life out, whether they do AA or just get it together, whatever their journey is. And like you'll see their energy is completely different. And I
yeah,
mean, granted, like I can feel probably more than some people, but like energetically, I'll feel like that person is a different person. Or
mm,
I've done healing work with clients where they come in and they're like, really heavy feeling, not physically, but feeling, just like so low. And I don't mean that judgmentally. I mean, but that's like, it's like, oh, like this is just, it's painful for me, it's painful for them, living that way, it's painful for their loved ones, all of that. And doing the healing work, when they're also doing the healing work, like then like I see where they'll come in or I'll get on the phone and I'm like, you feel like a different person.
mm,
Like your energy's so light, and they're like really, and it's not just happy, like they could still be coming to me with a problem, but their energy, like just their way of operating is completely different.
yeah,
And it's kind of like you said, like now they're a person that would probably never do some of those things.
for sure. It's awesome. I guess in your part, because I don't want to focus just your journey is way larger than just addiction. Um, Tell us how you took it from, so we followed you sort of as a young child, you felt it, you've heard it, you saw it, you then sort of explored it, then someone told you you're a medium.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you take this into like, wow, this is actually going to be my career now?
Okay. That's like almost a long story in itself, but I I can break it down. So that was when I was 18 when I was told. I immediately went into this place. I don't know if you remember the show The Medium, um, with Patricia Arquette, was on TV at that point in time, and she would help solve murders.
Yes.
And I was like obsessed with that show. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be this person. And the woman that told me I was a medium was actually the original mentor of the person that film was based off.
Yeah.
So we had that in common, which just kind of drove that even more.
Wow.
But diving into that kind of work without any real, I mean, I was raised Catholic, so I had some spiritual foundation, but I wasn't like practicing any kind of spiritual foundation.
Mm.
And so I had no real center, and it terrified me. It was, and so then I just was like, nope, not going to do this. I had a good long talk with God. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm going to do something else. And so I disconnected, and, went through some hard times, and then was drinking again and all of that. And then, in my mid-20s, I moved from Arizona to San Diego, and I did yoga teacher training, and that really helped kind of reconnect me with spiritual practices, with my faith, with all of that work. And then that was when I started doing energy healing, and that was kind of my negotiation with my gifts. I was like, okay, this isn't scary. I can do healing work and not have to talk to dead people. So that was my little like, okay, God, like we can be here. I can do this. This is okay. And then I got sober, and then getting completely sober. And I mean, I wasn't that, I was drinking only at night, probably a few nights a week. I mean, I wasn't, some people don't think, I wasn't drinking like from morning to night at that point in time. But even just quitting just a few nights a week, everything just started opening back up. I was doing the spiritual work though, so my energy was better, so it wasn't as scary for me. And then that was when I had that healing client come, and I brought through her loved one. And honestly, it was just that experience of seeing how powerful that was for her, seeing how much healing it brought the soul that came through, and seeing that it wasn't that scary for me as it originally was. I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. And at that point in time, I was, doing a 12-step program. I was saying the prayer every day, thy will be done, and just like, show me what I'm supposed to do. And that just like, and then it was like everywhere I'd go out to eat, and I'd see people's loved ones around my server. Go to meetings, I'd see everybody's loved ones, angels, like everything, like, so it just, and then I could kind of figure out my boundaries with it. And yeah, it just took off, and clients kept requesting it, and it just, here we are.
And it definitely took off. I mean, your celebrity clientele, you have obviously the normal clientele. You've written books, you've been featured in books, like you've done so much. So I feel like I have to at least say it, because I know you're not going to.
You know me, I'm like, I don't, and plus I'm that person where I'm like, and there's so much more that I have to do.
That's perfect, because that's what I want to know. I know we have a limited time, and I'm not going to let you be late to your next because of me. Yeah. So tell us what's on the horizon for Sarah Renee.
Well, I'm working on my next book. So my first book is called The Blessings Book, and it was really a collection of prayers and mantras and meditations and things that people can do on their own to help, and how it was broke down. You should see my writing process. People laughed at how crazy I look, but I have to handwrite. I can't just like write on the computer. When I channel, I have to handwrite. And so I had Post-its and pages, and they were taped all over the wall. And then because Spirit would guide me, like, these all go together, these all go together. And so I had to like lay it out like that and then type it up. um, so they're broken down in kind of different like themes or different areas, of life. And so that was like my first, because I just wanted to get people something that they could do on their own that would help them. That was like my only real like goal with that book. And it hit number one on Amazon, and it was amazing. And Serena Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer's daughter, wrote the foreword, and it was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. So Spirit always knows. So now I'm starting to work on my next book of client stories, things that I've learned from doing this work, like crazy experiences that I've had that I've never shared before anywhere. So I'm really excited. It's going to be like the juicy, like the meaty, and it's, I mean, I think it's going to be long too, but it's going to be good. So I'm starting to work on that. I teach online classes now, so I usually always have something coming up. That, and then I still am taking on new clients for one-on-one work, whether mentorship or just single readings over the phone.
Yeah. And how does everyone get a hold of you?
So the best way is my website, which is sarahreneeinc.com.
Perfect.
And that's like, you can contact me there. My social media pages are there. The Yelp reviews are there. Everything's there.
That's where I did. I mean, I when I went and found Sarah, I spent hours on that website just because, like, I'm just one of those people that is like, and she could tell you when I met her, I was so closed off because I did not want to give her anything. I didn't want, to like let a detail slide and then that turns into something. Like I was, oh, what do you call it? So skeptical, maybe, is that the word? I was so
I
like,
would think you were a healthy skeptic, though. I mean, I definitely, because you were open.
for sure, like I believe in this. I 100%. I just did not want someone to be like, oh, what did he say? And then like turn it and I forget it. And then they turned it into something. And I was like on my guard because I'd
Yeah.
never seen a medium ever in my life. And everyone, you read her reviews, we all say the same thing. She like blew me away. It's like, and even more so, I would say after, right?
Mm.
You'd say things in our meeting, and I mean, I'll even share, like, there was at one point where we were talking, I don't remember about what, and then you just said, I'm so sorry. I have to stop you. What is going on with your marriage? And like, it's just like it came out of nowhere. We'd never mentioned it. We never talked about it. And there was another part where you had mentioned feathers.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about it for a while, and I was like, even in my head, I was like, I don't know what this lady's talking about. Like I have no connection to feathers. And I mean, I still tell this story to people when I tell them about you. Is like, you do not believe it. Like that night, the next day, the day after, all of a sudden, random places these feathers would be. And not just like, oh, someone told you something and now you're on the lookout for it. It was not,
Mm-hmm.
it was very much like, I'm in a place, like I had something fall off a couch, a leather couch too, so there's no feather. Like, it's like they felt, and when I picked the little thing that fell off, there's a full feather that it just landed on. Or like on my couch, when the pillow, like I vacuumed the entire couch and have a leather pillow on that couch and picked up that pillow after I had just reset it and rearranged. And there was a feather below underneath that pillow. Like, how could it have gotten there? So it's just like stuff like that had happened where it's like, I obviously, like, there's a lot of other stuff that's personal and like I would know. But even just those little things, I'm like, you have to go because some people really just do know. And I would say what really made me even like diehard believer of Sarah is Corey, who was on the show last week. I was not planning to do like, oh, let me go see another medium, but he was on a really good friend of mine's show, and he was so funny, and I was like, oh, that guy has to be on my show, and so we were connecting that way, and then it turned into like, now he wants to do a session. That's sort of where it goes.
Okay.
But he said, 95%, and I would say the other 5% was just us joking around. 95% of our conversation was just all stuff that you had said during your meeting. And that's where I was like, these people cannot know these same things.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah. And that's what, and even like missing person cases where they have a lot of psychics, wanting to contribute. Like I always tell them, my mentor always taught me this of like to look for the common threads, because there will be things that spirit sends through, and even if they're translated slightly differently, like if they're common, like that, you can really, follow.
Yes.
And yeah, and I mean, I never know, like and that's how like I'm just like, I have no idea. I just say whatever they make me, see or tell me to, and whatever and I trust that that's enough for you.
And it is. And that's
And
why people, seeing a psychic medium is not just about like, can I connect to a person that passed?
Mhm.
For me, it was never about that. I didn't even think that I would connect to anybody really. But it was about a different version of healing.
Mhm.
That's what I got from it. And that's why I tell people is like, if you've done things, then now it's time to try this. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's another version of healing. And it's worked so well for me. And that's what I wanted people to understand is that it's not just, because that's what everybody thinks. Like, I'm going to go to this person so she can talk to dead people. And then it's
Mhm.
like, it's more than that. So I just encourage everybody to go and try it. I have to let Sarah go because I promised her that she would not be late. So, Sarah, thank you beyond for being here with me today. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited to to be here.
Me too. So, you guys, make sure to be back next week. We're here every week, and everything's going to be linked up. Comment section below for Sarah. Get a hold of her. She is literally the best out there. So, we will see you guys all next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.